everyone, welcome to another Make a Card Monday video. Today I'm using this stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. This is the Lemonade stamp set, and I just really wanted to create a really bright and yellow card, and this lemon stamp set seemed to go right along those same lines. So to create the card base, I've taken some Fog cardstock from Simon, and I'm going to be cutting it with the A2 card curved edge die. That's what I'm putting here at the bottom, and I'm just lining up right where it hits the edge of the card and making sure it's lined up on that line on my grid mat. And then I've got a little bit of Post-it tape in the middle holding it in place while I run it through my Big Shot machine. So it just cuts off a nice curved edge right there. Then I'm going to take my Martha Stewart Crafts mini scoring board and score that at 4 1/4. This is going to create my card base. Now I am going to be doing some stamping on an additional piece of white cardstock that's going to completely cover the front of the card. So in order to cut that, I took that piece that was cut off of the Fog cardstock and I glued that down onto some white cardstock that's cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And this is going to just be a placeholder for me to find where I need to cut that curved line again. So I'm just going to take the curved edge, the A2 curved edge die, and put that right up against that cardstock, and then that same Post-it tape still on there, and it held it in place in order for me to run it through my Big Shot machine. And then I have an exact size piece that will cover the front of the card. I could have actually just waited to cut it and adhere it and cut them together, but I wanted to stamp on it first, and I wanted to see where that edge is to make sure that everything was looking nice. So I'm using the full lemon stamp from that stamp set with some Simon Says Stamp Sunshine ink. This yellow ink is a very orange toned yellow. So depending on what you do with the ink, you could actually have this go more toward oranges. And so these all look like stamped oranges. Or you could go for a more lemony look. I went for lemon that goes along with the grading that I'm going to be using, but you could definitely have this be slices of oranges as well. I think the color could go either way. As you stamp it, it looks a little bit dark and intense, but once it dries, it soaks into the cardstock, evens out, and it's just a tiny bit lighter. For the grading, I'm going to be using some VersaFine ink, and I'm using Smoky Gray VersaFine ink. It's not quite as sharp, and I don't have quite as much of a love affair with Smoky Gray as I do with Black Onyx, but it is an awesome gray ink, and I really love to pair it with the Fog cardstock from Simon, which is what I'm using for my card base. And that card base is going to peek out from beyond that curved edge that I cut, so it's a really good color pairing with that. I'm using the small lemon stamp in the stamp set and that same Sunshine ink to stamp a little lemon right there on the greeting, and then I use my white gel pen to draw in a little highlight. I trimmed that down, and then I adhered the front that I stamped onto my card base. I just used some Tombow Extreme adhesive for this, and I started adhering it from the curved edge and really carefully placed that down, and I was able to get that on there completely perfect. Sometimes it makes me nervous doing that because you might have to cut off some excess on the edges or things like that, but as long as you start from one corner and work from there, you should be fine. I decided to put a mat of vellum, some cardstock vellum behind this greeting area. So I just placed the greeting on the vellum and then used a pencil to, draw in some tick marks for the sizing. Trim that down, erase those pencil lines, and then I'll take it to my sewing machine and just do a stitch all around the edges. And that just took a few minutes, and now I'm back with that stitched piece. I'm going to be adhering the vellum to the front of the card using a little bit of foam adhesive. So I just put some foam adhesive on the back. I was going to glue it down directly to the card front, and that's why there you can see that on the vellum, but it's going to be covered up anyway, so it won't matter. So I just put that down with some foam adhesive, and then I wrapped the card with some white embroidery floss and tied a bow down at the bottom. Now, in a minute, you're going to see the inside of the card, and you'll see that the string is showing. If you don't want the string to show, you could definitely cover it with some cardstock or paper. I don't mind it because, it's a handmade card, and it looks handmade, so it didn't bother me. But you could definitely cover up the string on the inside if you wanted to. So I took the grading piece and put some foam over the back, and just 2 strips will do it, and put that over the vellum piece. I made sure that it was in the right position that I wanted before I really pressed down. So I kind of moved that bow at the bottom, made sure that it was coming out to the front and wasn't going to get stuck underneath. And then I pressed down to make sure that it would adhere completely to the card front. I also went around the outside edge of the inside of the card and did some dash lines with the white gel pen just for a little bit of detail for when the card is closed and that inside of the card is peeking out. I went over the lemon with a clear Wink of Stella glitter brush pen just to add a little bit of shimmer on that lemon. And then that pretty much finishes up the card for today. And this is a really, really simple card. If you have any stamp sets with greetings that have these really vertical kind of greetings, this is a great layout for your cards, and I hope you'll give it a try. Just a reminder that all of the supplies that I used in today's card are listed down below or over at my blog. And I will catch you guys on Wednesday for a new Color Wednesday video. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. So the 3 videos on screen are my most recent videos, so I hope you'll check those out. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button in the top corner. You can visit my blog at kwarnerdesign.com, and I'd love to see you guys on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest. Once again, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in a couple days.